Today, tensions rise as global conflicts evolve and economies shift dramatically. From a major breakthrough in the US-Iran war negotiations to significant developments in Ukraine, the world is witnessing pivotal changes. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. Brazil is experiencing significant political unrest as protests against government policies grow in intensity. Citizens are expressing their dissatisfaction with economic conditions and governance, leading to mass gatherings in major cities. The protests have drawn attention to issues such as corruption, inequality, and environmental policies, especially in relation to the Amazon rainforest. While the government is calling for dialogue, demonstrators are demanding immediate action and accountability. The situation is becoming increasingly polarized, with both sides entrenched in their positions. Analysts warn that if the unrest continues, it could lead to further instability in Brazil, which is already facing challenges regarding its economy and international relations. As the government navigates this turbulent landscape, the future direction of Brazil's policies and governance remains uncertain. The global community watches closely, concerned about the implications for democracy and stability in the region. Severe flooding has impacted several regions in South Asia following torrential rains that have persisted for days. The flooding has led to widespread displacement, with thousands forced to evacuate their homes. Local authorities are working to provide emergency relief and assess the damage. The affected areas are struggling with access to clean water and health care, further complicating the recovery efforts. Humanitarian organizations are mobilizing resources to assist those affected, but the scale of the disaster poses significant challenges. Climate scientists have linked such extreme weather events to the ongoing effects of climate change, urging governments to take action to mitigate future risks. As the rains continue and the waters rise, the immediate focus remains on rescue and recovery, but long-term strategies must also be developed to address the underlying vulnerabilities in these regions. Tensions in the Middle East have escalated once again, as a series of protests and military escalations have occurred in various countries. The situation has been exacerbated by a recent airstrike that reportedly targeted militia positions in Syria, leading to retaliatory actions. Regional leaders are calling for restraint, urging all sides to engage in dialogue rather than conflict. The volatility of the region remains a concern. With the potential for either resolution or further conflict. The European Union has announced a new set of climate change policies aimed at significantly reducing carbon emissions by 2030. As part of its commitment to the Paris Agreement, the EU is taking bold steps to transition towards renewable energy and sustainable practices. The policies include stricter regulations on industries, increased funding for green technology, and incentives for countries to adopt cleaner energy sources. Environmental groups have welcomed the measures, praising the EU for its leadership in combating climate change. However, some industries are expressing concerns over the potential economic impact and job losses. As the EU moves forward with its plan, it faces the challenge of balancing environmental goals with economic stability. The global community is watching to see how these policies will influence other nations and whether they will lead to meaningful change. With climate change looming as one of the greatest challenges of our time, the EU's actions may set a precedent for worldwide efforts. Argentina is grappling with severe economic challenges as inflation rates soar to unprecedented levels, reaching over 140% annually. This crisis is rooted in a complex history of high debt, currency devaluation, and ongoing political instability, which have eroded public trust in government institutions. Citizens are facing skyrocketing prices for essential goods, leading to widespread protests and urgent calls for government action. The current administration, led by President Javier Milei, is under immense pressure to implement swift and effective reforms to stabilize the economy and restore public confidence. Analysts warn that without significant changes, Argentina could plunge into a deeper recession, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis and increasing poverty rates. The international community is closely monitoring the situation, as Argentina's economic policies significantly impact global markets, particularly in commodity exports like soybeans and beef. As negotiations with international lenders continue, the government must navigate tough decisions to address these pressing issues. The outcome of these reforms could ultimately shape the nation's economic future and stability. Haiti is facing an unprecedented humanitarian crisis as gang violence escalates, leaving thousands trapped in their homes. The country, already grappling with political instability and economic woes, is now under siege from armed groups that control significant portions of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Residents report daily gunfire and kidnappings, with many fleeing to makeshift shelters. International organizations are calling for urgent intervention and support to prevent further deterioration of the situation. A United Nations report highlights the dire conditions, indicating that over half the population is in need of humanitarian assistance. Food insecurity is rampant, and access to health care has become increasingly limited. The international community is urged to respond quickly as the situation continues to unfold. Nations are now evaluating potential assistance packages and intervention strategies to stabilize the region. As the violence persists, the future of Haiti remains uncertain, and the need for urgent action is more critical than ever. A powerful earthquake struck off the coast of Indonesia, registering a magnitude of 7.5 on the Richter scale. The tremor, which occurred early in the morning, sent shockwaves through several coastal towns, causing widespread panic and damage. Preliminary reports indicate significant structural damage to buildings and infrastructure, with many areas losing power and communication. Indonesia, situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire, experiences frequent seismic activity, making this region particularly vulnerable to earthquakes. Despite this, the scale of destruction has raised serious concerns regarding the country's preparedness and disaster response strategies. Historically, Indonesia has faced devastating earthquakes, with many lives lost and communities displaced. The government is currently assessing the extent of the damage while mobilizing emergency services to assist affected communities. Tsunami warnings were initially issued, but later lifted as the threat subsided. As rescue efforts continue, the focus will shift towards long-term recovery strategies, emphasizing the need for improved infrastructure and community resilience against future natural disasters. Authorities are committed to enhancing disaster preparedness to safeguard vulnerable populations. A new investigation reveals troubling connections between conflict minerals from the Democratic Republic of Congo and major tech companies including Sony, Microsoft, and Nvidia. This report emphasizes how coltan, a crucial mineral for the production of electronic devices, is often mined in war-torn regions dominated by armed groups, perpetuating cycles of violence and exploitation. The Democratic Republic of Congo is rich in natural resources, yet its people suffer from extreme poverty and human rights abuses linked to mineral extraction. As consumers increasingly demand transparency in the products they purchase, companies face mounting pressure to ensure their supply chains are devoid of conflict minerals. Despite some corporations' efforts to source materials ethically, the report indicates that these minerals often still infiltrate the market, undermining initiatives aimed at promoting conflict-free sourcing. Activists and NGOs are now advocating for stricter regulations and enhanced auditing processes to enforce corporate accountability. As awareness grows, consumers are likely to become more vocal in demanding ethical practices, compelling tech companies to adopt more responsible sourcing strategies. This could significantly reshape industry standards and improve conditions in conflict-affected regions. In another major diplomatic effort, U.S. President Donald Trump has communicated with Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. During a recent phone call, Trump emphasized the necessity of resolving the war, stating that he is prepared to assist in negotiations. This dialogue follows months of escalating tensions and military confrontations in the region, with fighting intensifying in eastern Ukraine. The conflict, which began in 2014 after Russia's annexation of Crimea, has led to the deaths of over 13,000 people and created a humanitarian crisis that has displaced millions. Analysts suggest that Trump's involvement could catalyze a renewed push for peace talks, which have stalled for years due to deep-seated mistrust between the involved parties. A resolution could not only restore stability to Ukraine, but also enhance relations between the U.S. and Russia, which have been strained since the conflict began. However, skepticism remains regarding the feasibility of a lasting peace agreement, as previous attempts have faltered. Observers are eager to see if this renewed commitment will lead to concrete actions on the ground. If successful, the upcoming weeks could be pivotal in redefining the geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe. In a significant diplomatic breakthrough, the United States and Iran have reportedly reached an agreement to end their long-standing conflict. This development comes after extensive negotiations facilitated by international mediators, including key players like the European Union and regional allies. The agreement aims to address critical issues such as nuclear proliferation, which has been a flashpoint for tensions, and regional stability, particularly in volatile areas like Syria and Yemen. The potential cessation of hostilities has been welcomed by many nations, signaling an end to years of escalating tensions in the Middle East. Experts believe this agreement could reshape the geopolitical landscape, enhancing security and cooperation among neighboring countries that have been wary of Iran's ambitions. Iran's economy, heavily impacted by sanctions, stands to benefit greatly from normalization of relations, potentially leading to increased foreign investment and trade. Furthermore, the deal could pave the way for renewed diplomatic ties and trade partnerships between Iran and Western nations, fostering a more interconnected global economy. As both sides prepare for the final announcement, the global community is closely analyzing the implications for oil markets and regional alliances. Observers are keen to see if this agreement will hold in the long term or if it is merely a temporary ceasefire, as both sides navigate the complexities of implementation and trust building. Thank you for joining us today. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.